Is the Capital One Venture the best card for beginners? For years, the Chase Sapphire Preferred was the go-to starter card, until Chase changed it all recently and left that throne up for grabs, at least in my humble opinion. I think the Capital One Venture has a claim to the throne, but really only for the right person. But I'm not going to hide behind a simple, it depends on your goals blanket statement. I'm going to judge this card on the only two things that really matter in a beginner card, showing you exactly where it falls short, and by the end of the video, you'll know if you should grab it or pass it. And so for me, when I'm judging a beginner card, I say that it really comes down to two things: simplicity and value. And there are three parts of any card where those two things can be tested. One is how it earns points. Two is what benefits the card comes with, and three, how you redeem those points. So for each of these, we'll ask simply, is it simple and is it valuable or not? And then there's also one thing that most beginner reviews skip that I personally care about a lot, and that's how far this card can take you if you fall down the points and miles rabbit hole and if you want to expand, or what kind of off-ramp do you have in case you decide to jump ship. So let's run through the Capital One Venture and venture through all of it, starting with the most basic question: is it even a starter card? So Capital One gives you three options within the Venture family, and for a beginner, here's why I fall on the Venture. The Venture 1 is the entry-level version of the card. It has no annual fee, which is nice, but its sign-up bonus is too small to actually get you traveling anywhere. So I treat it as a stepping stone, which is fine for someone who is just getting into credit cards in general and wanting to set up a relationship with Capital One, but I don't necessarily consider it the best card for someone who is ready to travel and use the points that they earn. The Venture X has got a different problem. It's a fantastic card, and yes, I know the benefits and credits more than make up for the annual fee, but $395 up front, no matter how you slice it, it's a much bigger ask than the $95 that the Venture requires, especially when you're just getting started. Also, sticking with the $95 Venture card, it puts us at a level playing field with the other starter cards that you would naturally compare against this one, like the Chase Sapphire Preferred and the City Strata Premier. Additionally, there's actually a smarter way to get the Venture X down the road, and there's a specific reason why I wouldn't recommend that you jump straight into it, but I'll come back to that. And so jumping into earning, it's incredibly simple. You get 2x miles on everything, period. And you have a couple of options for extra miles, and that's going to be earning 5x back on hotels, rental cars, and vacation rentals booked through the Capital One travel portal, and you get 5x back on purchases made through Capital One Entertainment. And so that's for tickets to things like concerts and sporting events, etc. But that's the whole earning structure. It's the king of simplicity, and there's really not much else to explain. So is it valuable though? Well, you are giving up a little bit of something here. You're not going to get the flashy 3x or 4x that some cards throw out at some of your biggest spending categories like dining and groceries, but a flat 2x on absolutely everything is hard to complain about too much. And if you want those bigger multipliers later, you can add a second card to cover those categories, which again, I'll explain more in a minute. So on to benefits. But first, if you're interested in a Points and Miles newsletter that goes beyond repeating, here's the best credit card out right now, and it gives you valuable tactical tips and more, you'll want to sign up for my Miles Roundup newsletter. There's a link down below. Also, while you're down there, if you do decide to get this card, I have an affiliate link for you to use to sign up with, which supports the channel at no cost to you. Thank you in advance. But back to benefits. This is where simple and valuable starts to split up a bit. First, the card offers no foreign transaction fees, so you can swipe it abroad without any surcharges. So it's simple but only minimally valuable if you already have another option to use for that function. Then we've got a TSA pre-check or global entry credit. Now this one is something that you can actually feel the moment you walk into an airport, which is always appreciated, and it wipes out at about $120 that you'd have to pay otherwise for this benefit. So I'd say this is simple to use, and it's probably the most valuable perk here in year one with this card, especially if you or your spouse don't already have this. Next up is a $50 experience credit on Capital One's lifestyle collection stays. Here's where I'd call a flag. This, I'd say, is neither simple nor very valuable for most travelers out there. The lifestyle collection is a small curated list of nicer hotels, and most of these on-site experiences, I imagine, will probably run you more than $50 anyway. So I'd ask, do you regularly like to book a fancy hotel and book experiences through them? If so, then this perk was made for you. But I feel like if you're anything like me, the best part about a fancy hotel is the fancy, comfortable bed. And I'd rather spend that $50 on a food tour in the city, but I digress. And so on to the next perk is Hertz 5-star status. Very meh. It's simple, but it's a so-so on value. Hertz's 5-star status is a mid-tier status that might get you a 1-class upgrade and mildly faster service whenever you check in, but only if you're already renting through Hertz. And so moving on to another one of the more useful perks of this card is the Auto Rental Collision Damage Waiver Benefit, also known as CDW. If you pay for the rental car in full with this card and you decline the rental car's company's own CDW coverage, then you get primary coverage on the car for theft or collision. And this is provided to you by your Venture credit card. So that way you don't have to go through your own personal auto insurance and you don't have to buy it from the rental car company. The one thing to be aware of though is that this benefit and this coverage, it covers the car you rented, not the other vehicle if you hit someone, and not any personal injuries. So just beware of that. However, this is very simple to use and it saves you real money per car rental. But please, I just recommend that you read the benefits guide for the card so that way you get the exact terms and the limitations, because there are some of those to be aware of. I'd say that's really the essence of the benefits of this card. So where does that leave us here? And I'd say good, not great, man. It's quite front loaded. You can easily squeeze value out of year one with the global entry credit alone. After that, there aren't many ways to keep justifying the $95 annual fee every year, which means this might not be a card that you hold on to forever. Whoa, wait a second. This is future Michael speaking. I need to interrupt because it actually looks like Capital One may be introducing a $100 hotel credit as an annual benefit, which would make this card an easy forever keeper card. But right now, it's only been emailed as a notification to current card holders, and even this may have been a targeted offer. It's still unclear, but it is not yet listed on the landing page as a benefit for this card. So keep an eye on the comment section for updates about that. Now back to the video. Let's first start getting into how to redeem these points. There are two easy ways most people redeem them, and then there's the way that unlocks the real value. The easy two are the travel portal and what I like to call the purchase eraser. I don't think they actually call that anymore. But with the travel portal, you book a flight or hotel inside the Capital One travel portal, and whenever you get to the checkout screen, you have the option to pay with miles. And whenever you do that, you're essentially just cashing out your miles at the same rate as you would as cash back. With the purchase eraser, you book travel anywhere on whatever website, the hotel website, you pay with a card, then reimburse yourself with the miles after the fact. And again, that's at the same rate as cash. So 100 points will give you $1 back, 10,000 points will give you $100, and so on. And so this is where most people tend to stay because it's simple and it's comfortable. But by doing so, you're getting zero extra value, which getting same as cash rewards beats some alternatives like cashing out for gift cards where you can actually lose value. So there's no shame here, but just realize this is the floor value that you can get in exchange for maximum simplicity. However, if you've watched any of my videos or any other credit card creator, I imagine, then you already know the real value lives in transfer partners. And so this is where all of the simplicity sort of evaporates. And so what are transfer partners in general? That's just simply airlines and hotel programs that Capital One partners with, or any bank partners with. And so what you'll do is you'll essentially transfer your Capital One miles into one of these airline programs or hotel programs. And so your Capital One miles turns into Air France Flying Blue miles, for example. And so now you go onto Air France's website and you pay Air France prices for flights, which is sometimes a lot less than Capital One's. And so that arbitrage is where the value lives, but it's also a little bit more complicated, as you can imagine. And so that's as far as I'll take the mechanics of it all. But in general, here's my take on Capital One's transfer partners. The list itself is excellent. It's not the best at any one thing compared to others, I'd say, but it's really well-rounded to get you to most places if you have enough miles to capitalize on it. I think it might even be one of the better list of transfer partners really to get to Asia, especially because it partners with airlines like EVA Air and Japan Airlines. However, the problem here is the on-ramp. Capital One doesn't have any familiar partners that you can really ease into like other banks For instance, you kind of already know how Southwest miles might work or American Airline miles works because it's familiar. But with Capital One's transfer partners, they don't really have any domestic airlines that are actually useful. So you've got to put in some work up front to know what transfer partners to use, how to use them, and how to book with them. And that is very intimidating when you don't know that going into it because it is a real learning curve. I won't hide that from you. In fact, my most viewed video is literally all about how to book domestic flights using Capital One's transfer partners. And the fact that it's so popular to me means that the video is really helpful, which is nice, but also that this stuff gets complicated. So some elbow grease is required to use these transfer partners. But even from here, there's a second catch to Capital One miles that's really not talked about much. And that's that some of Capital One's best partners, like the ones I mentioned that are great to get to Asia, they often require more miles than other programs or banks, which those details aren't very important to get into right now, getting started, but to be able to fly in business class to Asia in particular, or to take advantage of some of the best deals Capital One has to offer, you're really in the most advantageous position if you can earn a lot of miles. And the main way I see people being able to earn a huge amount of miles is through a lot of spending. And usually this comes from spending from a business to where you earn a return back on that, of course. So if you earn small chunks at a time, then those dream business class seats will usually just take a little bit longer to reach, which is sort of true for essentially any points and miles currency. But there's no crazy valuable sweet spots that charge a tremendously low amount of points that are available to you on Capital One compared to other places. So that's just something to be aware of. And then also, just to be clear, Capital One's partners are still solid for Europe and to get you around the world. They're just particularly well positioned to flights to Asia compared to other banks. So the general verdict on this redemption section is that it's extremely simple if you're happy with the zero value cash out options. However, it's not simple if you want the big value. That takes a learning curve and a healthy pile of miles typically. Now for the last part I want to judge is where can this card take you after year one, or where do you go? Because you might not want to hold on to the venture forever, so you've got three directions from here. And this is also where some of the loose ends I've been dropping earlier get tied up. To start, if the card isn't pulling its weight after a year, you can usually downgrade the card. And I say usually because Capital One can sometimes be a little stingy or just not upfront about its downgrade options. Many times from this card, you'll be given the option to downgrade to the Venture One or the Quick Silver, but not necessarily any card you want within Capital One's ecosystem. And so when you go looking for the downgrade option, you can find it either in the app or on the website, and it may say something like offers or upgrades. And you may not even actually see this option until you get closer to your card anniversary. So you'll want to check around the 11th to 13th month or so. Also, you want to make your decision to downgrade generally within 30 days of that annual fee posting. If you wait too long, Capital One tends to not want to refund your annual fee, even if you downgrade. And then if you really just want to cancel the card, you'll want to do this after a full year of having the card, because banks don't love a first year cancel. And worst case scenario, they can even try to claw back your points from the sign-up bonus. And I personally usually recommend downgrading over canceling just to keep that credit line alive for the sake of your credit history and improving your credit score. And also, while we're on the topic, if you're looking for a way to track your credit cards, the annual fees, when your sign-up bonus is ending, and all that sort of stuff, I personally use Travel Freely. It's a free app and partner of the channel. Link is down below, but it helps give you reminders for all of that. It's extremely helpful. But getting back to it, the next option from here is that you can actually venture out into other Capital One cards. See what I did there? Such as getting a second card for bigger multipliers like the Capital One Saver that offers 3x on grocery, dining, streaming, and entertainment like concert tickets with no annual fee. And even though it's marketed as a cash back card, having the venture card lets you convert the cash back that you earn into miles. And that's generally true for all of Capital One's cash back cards. Like if you have a Quick Silver card, which earns cash back, that can be converted into venture miles if you have the Capital One Venture, or really any Capital One card that earns miles. And also, if you run a business with a lot of spend, like we were talking about, Capital One's business cards are where they get really aggressive with their big sign-up bonuses. And we're talking like hundreds of thousands of points at a time, but they also come with big spending requirements, such as having to spend $30,000 in 3 months or more sometimes. Nearly all of these business cards that Capital One offers earn a flat 2x or 2% back, just like the venture. So they're really less about maximizing category multipliers in your business and more just about a clean catch-all system. So if you wanted to, you can choose to funnel your personal and business earnings into the same points pile, which you don't really have to. I personally generally lean towards diversifying your points into at least 2 currencies if you can manage it, but that's more of a personal call and definitely another conversation for another time. And so the third option from here is you can also upgrade your card, but this one I want you to be a little bit more deliberate about. Earlier, I told you not to jump into the Venture X, which is the premium version of this card, and here's the other half of why. It's important to start with the Venture card to collect its sign-up bonus, which is currently 75,000 miles at the time of recording, and then you can graduate to the Venture X later for its own sign-up bonus. This is because of how Capital One's family rules treat these bonuses. The order matters. If you get the Capital One Venture X first, then you'll no longer be qualified to get the sign-up bonus for the Venture, therefore forfeiting like 75,000 miles. And so that's why we do it in this order. Also, when you upgrade to the Venture X, you don't actually want to upgrade the card like I was talking about earlier when we were talking about downgrading. You actually want to apply for the Venture X as a new credit card application because that's how you'll actually get the bonus. They don't give you bonuses for upgrading the card. So you'll definitely want to be aware of that and look into it more if you're a little lost here. But the bottom line here is that Capital One does have a decently expansive ecosystem to grow into if you choose to stick with it, and it also offers an easy off-ramp if you decide points and miles isn't for you. You can easily redeem the points with one of those travel portal or purchase eraser options, and having these options available I think is very valuable in a starter card. So now we're back to where we started. Is the Capital One Venture the best beginner card now that Chase has opened the door and fumbled the ball here? My answer is that it's the best beginner card for a specific person, and it might be you. I say grab it if you want one simple card that earns well on everything and you don't want to think about categories or which card to use. You can grab it if you're a business owner with a lot of spend, because you could dip your toes into the personal side of things and then eventually fold into Capital One's business cards. You don't have to do it in that order, but it's nice to have that synergy at the start. And by doing this, it'll help you earn miles at a pace that makes aspirational travel easily reachable. And then also say you want to grab this card if you're okay and willing to take the climb up that transfer partner learning curve, because that's where the value in these miles tend to hide. But those who put in the time to learn the system will be rewarded. And then now I say you can skip this card if you're earning in small chunks typically and you want a smooth, familiar transfer experience right out of the box. Because Capital One's best transfer partners tend to cost more miles and more effort, and you may be able to get more from a program with easier transfer partners to use right out the gate to gain some confidence. And you can also skip this card if a flat 2x with a benefit that tends to fade after the first year doesn't really inspire you. And so that's my take on the card. I would love to hear yours down in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more about Capital One's transfer partners, you can check out this video here where I rank them from worst to first, or you can check out the next video in this series coming soon here. I'll see you in the next one.